Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the agenda for March 17th, 2020. Just before we begin, obviously it's a little different situation with the COVID-19 outbreak, and our council is continuing to meet to conduct the business of the town. However, this may change in the upcoming weeks as more information is known. As you can tell, we are taking appropriate measures in order to do the social distancing which is required and suggested by the Chief Medical Officer of Health. And we've also have the council chambers open today to the public due to a public hearing, but in the future that may change as well in order to ensure that we don't further spread the possibility of COVID-19. Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the March 17th, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Byer will make that motion. I need to amend that motion. Can I get a motion, please, that we adopt the agenda for the March 17th, 2020 regular meeting of council with the removal of E1 delegation and the addition of I1 COVID-19 update? Councillor Byer will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the March 3rd, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We do have a public hearing tonight regarding bylaw number 2242, amending land use bylaw number 2070 by redesignating a portion of SE 18 5317.5 from UR to C3A. And we have Ms. Carrie Florizone from our development department with us, who can give us an update as to what this change is all about.
Good evening. So the town has received a land use bylaw amendment for the redesignation of a portion of land. It's currently urban reserve, and the proposal is to make it business, commercial, light industrial. That does comply with the existing Edson West area structure plan. And planning and development is in support of the application. The map for reference, but it's kind of laggy, but we're getting there. Okay, there you go. So if you're familiar with where the Chrysler site is, kind of in its unfortunate condition right now is right here, Highway 16, and the Galmecki household is kind of where my hand is up here. So this is the portion of property that is proposed to be rezoned.
All right, thank you, Ms. Florizone. We are going to open the floor to comments from the public. So if you are either for or against this proposed development, I do believe we do have the developer here as well. If you would like to speak to your development, you can step forward, and we'll open the public hearing for until we have no more comments. Come on up, Kamzin.
Hi, how are you? Where do I do this? Just
yeah, right here. You can have a seat.
Okay, and so
you can just hit the arrow when you're ready to advance it.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Cam Sinar, the owner of what was Edson Grazier in standing condition. We've opened up, as you know, in a temporary location until we can get up and running. It's an unfortunate circumstance that got us to this point, as you all know, and so we have to rebuild. The existing lot doesn't work, and we can't build there because it's a 2.2 acre parcel, and it was grandfathered in by Chrysler back in the day because that's what it was built on. However, they've always been pushing for a 2.8 minimum acreage, and they really require somewhere between 3 and 5 for a dealership for a town our size based on its population and our sales volume. So that takes us to a need of somewhere between 3 and 5 acres. I've been looking for that type of land over the years on and off. This unfortunate situation has put us in a position now that we have to move it. And so we looked at the property next door, and this is what we're proposing. So I just put the future area the area structure plan as it was presented to me up there. If you take a look, I brought some elevation pictures that meets Chrysler standards. They're approximate of what it would look like here, and I'm just giving you elevations north, south, east, and northeast side of what the dealership would look like. I've done a site map on the corner of the property so you can see what it would look like. Highway is obviously off in front of the green, and access point there from where the existing road is that's going into the property. This is just a floor plan and they're in these presentations to you guys, these first few pages, but just this meets Chrysler's drawing and requirement for size dealerships our size. Second floor plan, first floor plan, and elevations so that you can see what it would look like from the front, east, west, and back side. These are Chrysler's design facilities in their pamphlets, and this is what the dealership would look like. So it would look like one of the ones in the city, actually newer than most of the Edmonton dealerships, newer than the ones you'd see up in Hinton and in Stony Plain. So it's a really nice project to bring into Edson because we would have a state-of-the-art dealership that would surpass the looks of most of the dealerships in Edmonton. I would say 80 to 90%. This will be a new design. So we're excited for that, all things considered, because we've been put here. So Chrysler has some pretty strict, guidelines on what they want for curb and curb appeal and things like that. So we're going to follow this to the best of our ability and try and get it to look like this from the front. They're going to have to sign off on that, and I've already sent them some things, and they want, more greenery, more shrubs, all that kind of stuff. So it'll look pretty good when it's done. This is some of their looks for the inside. We're working with Superior Builders that Dan McKinnon has been working with me, working with the town to figure out what the best way that we can get the property up to speed so we can get building. Our issue is trying to get a tight timeline, getting it zoned properly quickly, and then having everything going as fast as possible to start removal of the existing home and start building. And our optimistic goal is to try and be open as close to January, February of next year. And the reason for that time frame is weather, number one, and number two, to keep our employees working. With the dealership being burnt down and opening up in temporary locations in town, our business is down drastically, not just because of the economy, but partly because of our location. We're losing customers, and if we lose customers and have that capacity being what it is now, continue to go on for a long time, it'll just mean layoffs for staff. We're right now haven't had to do that and hoping not to have to do that, but if we can get open by January, February of next year, I think we can avoid all of that, and we can keep all 30, 35 Edsonites working, which is our number one goal, and keep our customers happy and offer them a state-of-the-art facility. So that's the view drawing from Chrysler with the finishings, and that's pretty much all I have.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And do we have anybody else here that would like to speak for or against? Through to administration, we did have some letters submitted regarding this.
Yes, there were some letters that we received. Alberta Transportation had some preliminary comments, but ultimately no concern. Yellowhead County was circulated since they're in that referral area. They had no comments. There were some landowners and businesses in the area that did contribute letters. They're in your packages. The gist was that they just wanted clarification of what a redesignation of this property would mean to their property and to their businesses. And ultimately, it doesn't really impact them a great deal since it's not a redesignation of any other parcel.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I'll call the question one more time, and then just remind council this is a public hearing. We'll get into future questions and debates further on in the agenda. Once again, is there anybody who would like to speak for or against this development? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, and we will move on to F1, reading a bylaw number 2242, amending land use bylaw number 2070 by redesignating portion of SC 185317-5 from UR to C3A. And can I get a motion, please, in relation to that? To approve that, thank you, Councillor Sorensen. And I'll open the floor to any questions, comments, or concerns. Councillor Chenard.
Actually, just a comment. Hopefully we can move this forward after hearing what we've heard. Our whole process was to put business along there, so I'm fully in favor of this to move forward.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Wilkinson.
Mine's a comment, and I'm just absolutely thrilled that we're going to have some development out in the west. And again, that you're employing 30 to 35 people from Edson is a real plus.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Just one comment. I'm glad that we were able to continue with the public hearing today. With everything that's been going on, I thought it was really important that we continued on with the business of running the town, and I know that the developers in tight timelines in this whole situation was not something caused by anybody but certain individuals in our community that are currently before the court. So I'm very happy to see this moving forward, and hopefully we can get this development going as quickly as possible. So I will be showing my support as well. Hearing no other questions, comments, or concerns, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council give third reading to bylaw number 2242? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council give first reading to bylaw number 2243 to amend land use bylaw number 2070 by redesignating approximately 19 hectares of SC 1653-17-5 as identified in bylaw number 2243 from Urban Reserve District to Heavy Industrial District, and set the public hearing for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 for the regularly scheduled council meeting for the town of Edson. Who wants to make that motion? Councillor Sorensen will make that motion, and we have Ms. Resick with us. Would you like to speak to this?
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. First off, I just want to say that Leanne and Kevin, who are the applicants for this land amendment, plan to be here in person tonight. However, due to the current situation regarding COVID-19, they were encouraged not to attend and to practice social distancing, so they are watching live instead. Moving forward, the request for decision is in front of you, so if you have any questions I can answer in terms of clarification. I do want to just repeat, we wanted to change the tentative public hearing date to May 19th, 2020 instead of April, I believe it was the 21st. Yeah.
24th.
Just due to the situation with COVID-19.
Okay. Councillor Sorensen, are you okay with the friendly amendment to that? Okay. Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Just a point, like, could we keep it till the 21st, and then if we can't do it, move it along afterwards, just so it doesn't get stretched out unnecessarily?
I don't believe so, because we have advertising requirements, so it'd be better just to push that date, because it's fairly unlikely that we will be able to have.
I just hope there's
yeah.
no rush on this, because
Yeah.
we don't want to hold people up.
Yeah.
If I may, that's correct. If we do keep the April 21st date, then advertising would go through in just in the nick of time, and May 19th would probably be the better date.
If I may also add to that, I believe that you've been in consultation with the applicants about this date change as well, so
Okay, and they're all
aware
right
of
with
this
that?
already.
Okay, good.
Yes, we are working with the applicant to get through the process as painlessly as possible.
Yeah, okay, because a holdup can really be
Yeah.
astronomical.
And I think it's, if I may, I think it's really important that the landowners in that area have a clear date of what that public hearing is, because they may have comments in regards to this. So, Councillor Chouinard.
I'm having trouble with map, just clarification, where is this property? Is this,
So it's on the road, on the way to the landfill.
oh, okay, so
yeah,
it's just
54th
over
Street
the
South.
tracks where that mobile home and stuff is, that where it is,
Yeah.
just past
Yes.
the dog park?
And
Yeah.
that's correct, across from the tanks there.
Okay, that's what I was just.
Yeah, if you look on the map,
That map looks better when I'm looking at here.
yeah.
So just to actually clarify, it's just past the dog park?
Yeah.
And there's a mobile home and they've been using it for somewhat of a salvage yard, now that's property we're talking about? Okay, I just want
That's right.
clarification, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please, that council direct administration to submit the two resolutions as presented to the Trans-Canada Yellow Highway Association concerning the highway maintenance through town and traffic lights at key intersections for presentation at their annual general meeting on April 24th, 2020. Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. We have discussed this at committee at length, and I don't think we really have anything new to add unless there's something you want to say, Councillor Chenard.
The only thing I want to add is due to what's going on now, our date has been changed. We're voting on either May 22nd or May 29th. That's the only comment. So it will
Okay.
not happen on that date for AGM.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. We have no information items. We're going to move on to sundry. I-1 COVID-19 updates. We'll hand things over to CEO Derricott. We have been in the midst of a situation here for the last little while. Would you care to give us an update?
Sure, thank you. Council is mostly directly aware. Part of the purpose of this update is also to share some of this information with any public who may be interested as well. This is obviously a situation that is evolving rapidly, and particularly in the last week or so. Our directive administratively, which has been supported by council, is to follow the guidelines as they come down from the provincial bodies, in particular AHS, and we have done that. We took what I believe would have been some proactive measures in the closures of facilities, including Repsol Place, Town Office, Fire Hall, Public Works, which now I think would be necessary with just the latest updates from the provincial regulatory bodies today. We continue to have all staff who are reporting to work. One of the issues that we, just like I know many organizations, are dealing with is the childcare issues that have arisen with the school closures. Most of our employees have been able to manage those. We have had a few accommodations that we've had to make. We know this is a juggling act that many of the businesses in our community are dealing with. We're taking internal protocols as well to ensure that our employees are as safe as they can be while still working appropriately. Happy to also, Mayor Zahara, answer any questions that council may have. I apologize. One other element I was going to note. We have activated our emergency coordination center. This is at this point is we feel a prudent measure to just ensure good, consistent communication, and is specifically has been done in order to support the public health advisories that are coming from the province. It also prepares us that should additional action be required, that we are able to respond quickly and act accordingly. Currently, we have a briefing of those staff required there set for every morning, including representatives from AHS and the RCMP, just to make sure that we are learning as much information as we can from our partners, as well as being able to share the protocols that we're taking as part of that. Our encouragement to any members of the public is to please watch official town channels such as our Facebook, our website, the app. If you want to learn specifically how our community is being affected. In general, we just really encourage people to ensure that the places they're gathering their information are official government sites, typically AHS, and we do have links on our information as well that can keep people connected with that. That is one of the main elements of response in a situation like this, is good, consistent communication of the right information so that people can respond appropriately. And we feel that we have done that so far, and we're obviously going to continue to ensure that our response is as appropriate as possible.
All right. Thank you, CEO Derricott. Council, you have any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Wilkinson.
Just to administration, what are the plans like for mental health issues? Because as this continues, I'm sure there will be many, many mental health issues. Is Alberta Health Services setting up some lines, phone lines or something for people? You know, they are asked to stay home, and every day staying home, I'm sure, doesn't help people.
Thank you. Are you referring to the general public or
Yes.
to staff specifically? Okay.
So that the people who are in their homes feeling like they're captives
Yep.
have someone to phone.
I thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. I won't comment too much, as that is more of an Alberta Health
Right.
But what I will do is, as we're joined tomorrow by an AHS representative, I'll be happy to ask that question to see if we can gather more information. I'm sure that Alberta Health is considering
I'm
all
sure-
of those.
I'm sure they
I just
are.
don't know what their specific
Yeah, I
protocols.
just thought maybe they had shared
Yeah,
that.
their specific protocols they have in place. I couldn't tell at this moment. I'm very confident that they will be prepared to deal with what is an unorthodox situation as best they can, and direct people to the best places to ensure that they continue to have both their physical and mental and emotional health considered as we go through this.
Thank you. Any other quick questions, comments, or concerns? Just a quick comment, a couple quick comments. I spoke to the general manager of West Fraser this afternoon. Mill operations are continuing as regular. They have obviously put in some precautions in place, and they are not having large gatherings, and visitors are not allowed to access their site. However, at this point in time, all employees are currently working, and they don't have any plans to change that unless required to by higher authorities or if market conditions change. In addition, I know that there are rumors around town about COVID-19 on the streets of Edson. To be very clear, at this point in time, the town of Edson has not been given any indication that that is actually the case. There's only been one confirmed case in the north zone for AHS. Is that 3? It's updated to 3 today. There has been no notification that that is actually impacting our community. So I think it's really important to stress that correct information is really, really important, and that we all stay calm and cool and collected. And most of the measures that have been taken to date are all precautionary to ensure that the majority of the public and those that are most at risk will be safe. So we'll continue to work on this. And I understand, so what is the next level? So say if things change and things progress, what would be the next level for the ECC?
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, the next level would be consideration of declaration of a state of local emergency. There are a number of communities who have done that, including Calgary. The main purpose for those at this point in time is that under a state of local emergency, local jurisdictions have some additional powers in terms of enforcement of regulations or parameters. In this case, this was specifically enacted to allow the city to intervene with organizations or events that were not complying with the recommended gathering limits and those types of things. And under a state of local emergency, they were just given additional abilities to step in that they wouldn't typically have. I think that if we are fortunate, we will not need to go to that level, but we're certainly set up and prepared to respond if that does become necessary.
Okay. Thank you very much, CEO Derricott, and on behalf of council, I also want to once again thank Town of Edson staff who quickly met here Sunday night at a moment's notice to develop plans. I know plans are already being developed, but to meet and discuss. And I think our team has been doing a wonderful job. Steve in our communications department as well, communicating. If anybody has information that they would like to obtain, edson.ca//COVID-19, or is it COVID? It's COVID. So just go to the Town of Edson website. All the information is on there. So thank you very much, CEO Derricott. And we are going to move on to council committee reports. We are going back to March the 4th, and we will start with Councillor Curry.
On March 12th, I had a board of directors meeting with Community Futures West Yellowhead. I think kind of big update for us is that Smart Start Edson is a go. We will be taking registrations in May, and then the program will start in September. So they will be looking for new business owners that are interested in participating. And so how the program works is a new business owner is put together with a successful business owner, and it's a mentorship program, and then they do some coaching throughout it. So they will be looking for people who are wanting to start up, and then people, successful community businesses that are willing to be mentors. So that's really exciting. We are actually having an emergency meeting on Friday. Nancy and Tim are working and they are fielding lots of calls. Obviously, they're getting lots of calls from businesses and from our loans, and Community Futures as a whole has put out some stuff on what they'll be doing with loans and how they'll be helping with the payment process and such. So we will be making decisions on that on Friday, but very aware, and Nancy and Tim are making sure that they're in regular contact and they're phoning people. And then they're providing a lot of support across the province, because unfortunately some other communities have already been put in, their managers have been put into self-isolation. So really making sure, because businesses, obviously this is huge for them, and loan payments and such. So it has definitely been discussed, and they're doing all that they can to support and help business owners. And then on that same day, I had a recycling society meeting. Some exciting community stuff. We had our 5th out of 6 schools that are fully composting and fully doing the waste diversion programs. They're doing really, really successful, which is super exciting. And they are often used as role models for schools across the province. We have a school in Edmonton that would like to come out and tour Pine Grove and see what they're doing. And then another thing, the architectural clearing has been surprisingly extremely successful, and they need stuff. So if you are doing any construction at your house or anything, please don't take it to the landfill, go there first. And it is random things that they had not expected, small pieces of baseboards, screws, everything, but they were shocked. So anybody who is doing some home renovations right now, please don't go to the landfill. If you're doing any business renovations, they need supplies. It's been really, really successful. However, it is currently on lockdown. so keep those things. Don't take them to the landfill until they're backlifted. Both take it or leave it, and the architectural clearing are currently closed for the time being.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Schnaart.
Mine's real easy. My meeting's all been canceled, so we're closed. Nothing to
Thank you.
report.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Okay, March the 4th, I did another walkthrough at the new Parkland Lodge. It's really starting to look very, very good. And the new millwork is just so much nicer than what originally was in it as well, with changing it. On the 16th, I went to Jasper on behalf of Evergreens Foundation, because Raven Bistro up there, for their full day, their food, their drink, everything, all the profits went toward the seniors bus in Jasper, which was really wonderful. So I think they made $5,000 in the day. On the 12th, we had an Evergreen meeting for the full day. And just as a little interesting fact, we believe it's going to cost us about $175,000 to move the current residents back into the new place. By the time you have to have both places operating for a while to have the new kitchen, that they get used to that while they're still operating the old kitchen. It's just like selling your house when you have 2 mortgages. It's going to be a little bit of that. So that's really quite the hit. I am very pleased to say that we're locked down now, and it's just emergency people that can go in, and we really need to be very protective of that. I hope everybody follows that we can keep our seniors well. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Sorensen.
Okay, March 10th I had a committee of the whole meeting. March 11th I went to the Chamber of Commerce annual general meeting. They reported a very, very small deficit for last year. Pretty much everyone on the board is in the second year of a 2-year term, or going into the second year of a 2-year term, so there was no elections. And our mayor gave an excellent summary of the past year. And March 13th, I was at the Edson District Recycling Society contract negotiations as well. That's it.
Councillor Meyer.
On March 12th, I went to the Waste to Energy Symposium in Fort Saskatchewan. They had great attendance there. A few of the speakers presented via webinar because they're from overseas and were unable to travel, so that was good they stayed there. But they had some really, really, really great speakers. The first half of the day was kind of education, and then the second half was on practical components that are already kind of in our communities, or in Alberta even, that are already happening by turning your waste, so your garbage. And when they talk about the waste, what they need is a significant amount of recycling and compost taken out to already divert that portion of the waste. And take the things that can't be recycled, right? If it's contaminated or if things are put together and you can't take the plastic from the, other portions that are all stuck together, and then regular waste. So it was interesting though, so for some of the projects to be effective, Europe is going ahead with a bunch, but their current, right now, they have landfill taxes of $160 per ton, or up to $200 per ton, and I believe ours in Alberta are closer to like 50 or 70. So with that, it makes sense to invest in some of these projects. With thermal, there's a really tight window. With an operating, you have to have certain mins and max of a few different components to make this work. So when you put it on the chart, there's this like little component that works really well when you're in it, but you can't get out of it. Otherwise, you start to lose efficiencies and things don't work. And the whole kind of component, it breaks down a little bit. With gasification, municipalities need to be wary of experts that, maybe have done like a pilot project and then they can say they can turn it into a bigger project, because it doesn't work like that. If they've never done that bigger project in that same way, saying you've done a pilot and making it, expanding it, it does not work. So I guess they must have had a few issues with that, because they warned us all to be very wary of that. And sometimes when we were doing comparisons, they had a portion discussed in BC, but when you start to talk about different regions, there's different transportation costs that vary, and then where it is within the region, and then also what type of waste that you're getting. That was really interesting. Not all waste is the same. Depending on where you are at, there's lots of different unique waste that happen everywhere. One of the other presenters from the Energy Capital, with the Capital Power Genesee plant, she said that, beginning with the end in mind, what is your objective with these types of projects, and that can really change the way that you would go with a waste to energy project. And so with the Capital Power's Genesee plant, they had worked with so their suggestion for smaller communities, and maybe this is where we would fall in as a possibility to consider, is to work with an existing industry that accept waste, fuel, and do your best to work with them to make sure that they're getting the waste that they need. So a lot of these have to be handpicked through, like some things can't have like certain metals in it or glass, so that's why recycling the glass is still important, because some products will go in as a product and it still comes out as the same product, so it's not efficient through their system, and then if it's like going in a big turbine or something, then it's going to start damaging things as well. So what they did was they had transferred the Genesee plant, and they had to bring waste in from Tennessee to see if they could transition from coal to waste, and it was operable at that location. It worked, but they didn't have the volume for it. So if they would have had all the municipalities be able to like help them out with that, that would have been an effective way to transform that, but they didn't have that. So they said working with an industry partner can be helpful, and I know Bruce from our environment fleet manager, he was also there, and I'd be interested to see his perspective as well from what he got out of that. So yeah.
Thank you,
And then on March 16th, my regional library meeting was canceled in Spruce Grove, but we were able to vote on a few things via email. So
Thank you, Councillor Byer. March 11th, attended the Chamber AGM with Mayor Glinsky, and it was great to chat with the Chamber representatives about what's happening with local business. And then on the 12th, met with the Chamber again, the Chamber executive regarding trade show with the cancellation, and then of course everything with COVID-19 happened subsequently after that. So March 13th, attended the EDRS negotiating committee meeting, which we'll update council on here shortly in the closed session, and that is my report. Just like everybody else, a lot of things have been canceled due to COVID-19. Go ahead, Councillor Sherrod.
So over to Councillor Byers. Did you say a landfill tax, or do you mean landfill rate?
I believe, Councillor Chouinard, that it was a landfill tax. I believe it sounded like it's imposed by the government or something. So that's the norm in Europe to have those.
Oh, it's in Europe, because when you announced the rates, I thought, no.
Yeah, and they said generally the way, a way to make that effective here, because there's not subsidies to kind of transition us into that, or there isn't yet, was you have to increase your tipping fees, but then there's issues with increasing your tipping fees. People just go elsewhere, so you're not actually making that income anyway. So I believe it was imposed by their governments.
Thank you. No financial items, questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting? Go ahead.
So to administration, I know you explained a little bit about what the Emergency Coordination Center does, but can you explain what it is exactly?
Yes, so under the Alberta Emergency Management Act, there's some principles set up for local jurisdictions to respond to emergent situations. The first step of that is to have a municipal response plan, municipal emergency response plan. And under our plan, it just designates the emergency. They used to call them EOCs, or Emergency Operations Center, now ECCs, Emergency Coordination Centers has become the terminology. And so it is just the administrative function to support whatever response is appropriate for a given situation. And so sometimes the response is, for example, in the summertime when we had the fires in Marlborough, we activated our ECC and in a support role, considering the possibility of maybe taking evacuees from the area and more of a social services support role. In this case, it is to coordinate our response with Alberta Health Services and other public bodies to ensure we're prepared to do that. So at this point, it is just our very senior members of that group that are participating in those daily briefings to, like I said, at this point, mostly share information. But that can obviously scale with the response that's required. It is the mechanism whereby you would then proceed, as the mayor suggested earlier. If the response escalated, then the council might declare a state of local emergency, in which case then even more ability is given to the Emergency Coordination Center to dictate responses that may be required as part of that.
Okay. And then just secondly, do we know how, up to when events will be canceled for the town?
Indefinitely at this point. This is an evolving situation, so we're not putting any timelines on that. Obviously, we'd like to get back to normal as quickly as possible. That is why, one of the reasons why we're continuing to meet, to continue to have progression of our community and ensuring that business is getting done, but at a certain point, a decision may have to be made that we can no longer continue that for the safety of us and the public. And the other thing is we're taking all of our cues from the medical professionals and will continue to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, can I get a motion, please? The council move into a closed session in accordance with sections 24(1)A, C, and G, and 25(1)C of the FOIP Act. Councilor Sherrard will make that motion.
Actually, I had a question before into it, because with this on here, I'm not sure the details if I should declare a conflict.
You don't have a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I will make the motion.
Okay, Councilor Sherrard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
As long as they're not going to
Until the motion's better. That's better.
All right, can I get a motion, please, that council approve the Edson District Recycling Society lease and operational agreement for the town of Edson effective April 1st with a total amount of $390,000 for the 2020 budget. Councilor
Make that motion.
Curry will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilor Sorensen?
I just think this is a excellent turning point for our two organizations. I think it's going to be a much more collaborative way forward. They're going to have a lot more flexibility, and I think it's going to be the best for both organizations.
All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns? I concur with Councilor Sorensen, and I think this will renew the relationship between the town of Edson and EDRS and provide some much needed stability for both organizations in a market that is ever fluctuating with current market conditions regarding recycling. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. I know. Change that. Can I get a motion for adjournment? Councillor Schnarr will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
See how it's gone, but